John Dugan, and I'm going to give you a brief presentation about the MyESnet portal. So what's a portal? That's a question that gets asked a lot because it's not very well defined. And what we mean by portal is it's a place where we can present data to our user community. ESNet historically collected a lot of information, and we've made it publicly available, not always in the easiest to consume format. So the portal is about providing this information in a much more user-friendly format. It'll also provide a more coherent view whereas the data was kind of provided in various ad hoc formats, we've taken some effort to make sure it's presented well. And then when we talk about community, I mean, obviously we're first talking about our users, our sites. That's the smallest part of our community, but we see our community spreading out in sort of concentric circles to, the people at the sites, to the people that use the facilities at the various DOE sites, to collaborators, to peers, and even all the way out to the general public. So that we have a pretty broad idea of what we'd like to do with this portal. So currently, I want to talk a little about what's here. You can see interface utilization from our SNMP data. You can also see some details from NetFlow, which I'll dig into a little bit more during the live demo. And then we have some outage and availability information. And we have many ideas for things going forward. One thing I just will point out is that we do really value your feedback. And so one of our first tools that we're going to be adding will be a tool to help us rank new ideas. Okay, so let's go on to the live demo. All right, so if you go to myes.net, this is the first page you'll see. And as you can see, it's kind of it's a pretty simple page. We've been trying to keep it simple, make it easy to use. One thing I'm just going to point out right now is there's sort of this tabbed interface, and right now we're on the Home tab. And then there's two more tabs, the Site and the Availability tab. The Site, anything under the Site tab is going to sort of focus on site-specific information, whereas Availability is going to give you an idea of ESNet-wide availability. The Profile tab is just to update your user profile. Okay, so I'm going to pick a site. Let's go with Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. That's where I work. And so it's going to load the page here and show some data about LBL. And so what you see here is a graph showing the last 24 hours of SNMP interface utilization for all the interfaces facing LBL. And there's some other information here, such as the top 10 countries that LBL has exchanged traffic with. We have some information about BGP pairings and availability over here. And so this is just kind of a summary, and we're kind of still working on this page, but it's to give a quick overview of a given site. Okay. Next, we're going to dig in a little further. So one of the most unique things we have is that we're providing information to our flow data. It's not that common to provide this publicly, and we feel that this is kind of an interesting feature. Let me take a second while we're looking at this. This shows a breakdown by protocol, by TCP and UDP, and from here you can see that TCP pretty much dominates the traffic flow. I do want to point out that what we've done here is the scales of the graphs all line up, right? So you can do an apples-to-apples comparison, and you can see if any area or shape that you see here should be have the same rough proportions as it does below, or relative proportions. So that's what this means here with the Y-scale fixed. Now, you can also switch it to dynamic, which will give you where these scales are no longer aligned, and you can see the details in the ones that are kind of noise above. So here you can see that like ICMP traffic, all of a sudden there's actually something going on there, but you couldn't see it when fixed was turned on. Also, as you mouse over stuff, it will show you the actual value of the particular data point you're looking at. Finally, sometimes it's useful to just turn on the 95th percentile because sometimes there's a really high outlying peak, and the 95th percentile will sort of kind of let you center in a little bit more on the data. But for now, for most of these demos, I'm going to leave things set to both fixed and 100th percentile. Okay, we'll just do a quick fly through all of these. This is just another breakdown. Instead of being the IP protocol, this is broken down by port number, or what's often called application. So you can see here, web traffic, HTTP, makes up a certain percentage of it, but really a lot of it's in the other category. And there's a lot of reasons for this, which I'm not going to go into right now. Okay, the next two breakdowns require a little bit of explanation. This shows traffic based on autonomous system, which is a routing term. And basically this shows the origin of autonomous system. So this is traffic from as far as we can get information about it, where this traffic originated. So you can see LBL is exchanging traffic with Google and with StarTap, and then this ESNet West one, which is a net block There's details there that I don't need to go into. Also, there's autonomous system peer, which this shows the first hop um, outside of ESNet that these things go to. And actually, they're very similar because in this case, they line up pretty well. Okay. Another thing to note is that you can look at any of these breakdowns for a longer period of time. So let's look at the country breakdown, right? And so this is going to show us the top few countries that are listed here, and it will load eventually. And you can see most of the traffic that LBL exchanges is with the rest of the United States. You can go here and you want to say, well, that's just the last 24 hours. Let's look at the last week. And so you can hit that, and it'll load 1 week worth of the data. And it really will load. I'm just going to wait for it to do that. Okay, and so you can see same kind of breakdown. Next, we have the site interfaces. So this data is just the SNMP counters for interfaces facing the site. LBL actually doesn't have a very complicated setup. So what I'm going to do is switch for the moment to look at Fermilab because they have a lot more interfaces. So we go here and we'll bring up the total here. And you'll notice there's a couple of things going on here. One is that they have an Oscars graph as well as a total traffic graph. So this shows traffic, the fraction of the traffic that comes into and out of this site based on Oscars rather than just normal IP. A little bit further down, you can see breakdown by interfaces, and you'll notice there's some color coding here where the interfaces that are Oscars related are marked in green. One thing you can do on this graph is to show, instead of showing averages for each time period, you can show a maximum. So if I switch here, it'll load the maximums, and you can see there's a really big peak here because the maximums added up to quite a bit. Okay, I'm going to switch back to the average view. And then finally, we have some information about outages. If there are upcoming outages for the site, they'll be listed here in the upcoming section. And as you can see, in the past 30 days, there haven't been any listed outages here either. We'll turn on 90 days, and you can see a little bit of information about the outages. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about this, but something you can explore. Finally, the last thing we're going to look at real quick is the availability matrix. So this talks about what percentage of the time any given site was available or reachable in some way from ESNet. And you can click on the details here to get a little more information, but that's about it. Also, take a look under the Profile tab, but this is just a chance for you to get started and take a look at things. So thanks a lot for listening, and if you have any information, please don't hesitate to contact us at tools@es.net. Thank you very much. Bye.